talk to any of these girls that were doing what they were doing?
Not a one. When the detective asked me, did any one of them tell her to take her life? Because if they didn't, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. Mind you, anytime I spoke with a parent, I never thought that I was saving, I never thought that my daughter thought that this was a way. I never thought she thought that she didn't want to be here. I thought this was a milestone. I always would tell her, Muffin, one day we're going to talk about this. It's going to be a testimony. You may help young girls when you're older. That may be what you're here for. I see Chef up there, but you may be cooking for them and helping them and probably being a therapist. Because I think I always tell them we go through things so that we can talk about them when we're older. We probably can help someone who may go through the same thing that we're going through.
And what do you say to yourself about this after the fact? Do you think that you failed your daughter?
You feel failed. Any parent that loses a child the way that you do, in this manner, you feel, could I have been different? But when I think about it, my daughter was so uncomfortable. She hated conflict. Anytime I addressed anything, she was like, Mommy, just don't do this. I don't want you to talk to anyone. I gave her a plethora of ideas. I'm like, do you want to go back homeschool? Do you want to start a new school? And when you have that preteen, you have to be real careful. And that was my process through the whole thing. She's 13. I don't want to make a decision for her. I want her to be a part of the decision making. So whatever she chooses, I'm going to support her. And that's what I was doing. Feeling failed, of course. She was my baby. She was my twin. She understood me a lot because a lot of the traits that she had, like reading books and planting plants and doing DIYs, that was my girl. I love doing all those kind of things. So that was our bonding time all the time. I would tell her, I'm your best friend. And she told me one time, Mommy, no one wants their mom to be their best friend. I want a real friend. I never thought for 1 second she had a thought of taking her life. It never dawned on me, ever.
I know that there are those of you here today and millions of you watching this around the country right now that are thinking, if a mother this plugged in, a mother this engaged with their children can get caught up in this kind of a situation, then the power of the internet, the power of cyberbullying can scare the absolute hell out of you. And if it doesn't, it should. Because I've been doing this for over 45 years, and I don't know that I've met a more engaged, plugged in, involved, loving parent than you with these kids. Do you all agree with what I'm saying? I mean, it just in what you're hearing. And I know you take your own inventory and say, well, I could have done this, I could have done that, I could have done this. But I have to tell you, if I was going to sit down and say, well, if you want to learn from this, let me tell you 3 things you did wrong and 4 things you could have done that you didn't do, I don't have a list. You involved yourself with your daughter, you talked to her, you had a family meetings twice a week, she trusted you, you had that channel of communication open, you recognized the problem ahead of time, you labeled it for what it was. You learned a lot more after the fact because kids don't like to come to their parent and say, nobody likes me. That's embarrassing for them. They want to hide that. They don't want to tell their parents that. The bullies, if they're watching this and they know what's happened, they know who they are, they have to be looking themselves in the mirror and saying, oh my God, what the hell have I done? And I'm sure they spin it and justify it in their minds. But this is a terrible thing and it has to stop.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.